I might have to change it up and starting right on time. Mix things up a little bit. Especially since Sandro's usually coming on here, so he's usually the late one, so we can maybe start on time next time. Let's see. Any new thoughts I have about what's going on? Today's Wednesday. Maybe for the Monday class, before you guys get on, start your practice at home. So do your practice at home, and then just warm up and try to be like warmed up when we start. And then when we jump on, right at 7:45, I can see some of what the practice looks like, what you guys are doing. And that way you can see other people practicing. And then we'll wind it down, and then we'll go into discussion and meditation. So that would be your homework, would be to start practice right before class. And then when class starts at 7:45, you do about 5 minutes of practice, and I'll kind of watch a little bit of everybody, see what people are at. And then we'll go into question, answer, discussion, and meditation. Find a way to change it up a little bit, since this is going to be going on for a little bit longer than expected.
Adaptation, the key to survival.
Yeah, exactly. Any new questions? Anything you guys want to discuss?
I do have a question. Because you've mentioned a couple times as a possible topic, like talk more about the Dantian. And so I think I'm curious more about the the thinking behind that center. Like, is it the second chakra? Is it a different thing? Does everyone have one and we just develop it in this practice? And like, how does that change the flow of energy in the body? And like, what, like, if, does it shrink back down when you stop doing this practice? Like, if you don't continue?
Okay, those are all
just
awesome
like
questions.
More about like, how does that act in the body? And like, I'm just curious.
Well, this was interesting because, I read a lot, and I read a lot of other systems, and I don't practice them really, but I like to hear their dialogue, their way of looking at certain things. And this one guy I've been reading about, he talks about in their lineage that Dantian doesn't exist until they do Qigong, meaning there's an area that they focus on that they call the lower abdomen area, but it's a Chinese term. But he says it's not until you do, and they're kind of picky about high level Qigong, like internal alchemy type of Qigong, to actually start putting Qi into that region until it actually turns into Dantian. And I asked Dr. Zhang that, and he's like, oh yeah, that's true. Everyone has a Dantian, but not everyone has a Dantian, kind of say. So everyone, like children and stuff, everyone's born with the biological structures, but if they don't put anything in there, then it's not really Dantian. So it's like they have this vessel or this cavity to hold energy, but if they're not putting Qi or refined energy into it, then it's just kind of going to waste or not being accessed or used. So I thought that was a pretty interesting concept. And the analogy he gave was, imagine a big field, like at a golf course or something, and it all looks pretty flat, but until it rains, all of a sudden you see the water pooling in a certain region where it's low. He says that's kind of like, the whole field is like, the lower abdomen, but then where the water collects is Dantian. And I thought that was kind of neat, that Dantian's not really there until you actually put something into it. And Dan traditionally means something red, even though Hong is usually the term for red, but it's like talking about like cinnabar. In the old alchemy, they used to use cinnabar mercury to create alchemy, to convert it into a longevity elixir. So they call like the Dantian like a crucible and an area, a field that you can use to create, this alchemical, refinement and process. So until you put something in there, then it's really not anything, was this guy was saying. And Dr. Zhang says, yeah, that's true. Which is much different than this other Taoist teacher that I study with. And he said Dantian didn't exist at all. He just said it was a point of reference. Like people say, oh, navel gazing, just gaze at your navel. It's like he didn't believe that Dantian was anything. But Dr. Jung thought it was a structure that one day we'll be able to kind of talk more about in detail. So I think it is slightly different than the chakras, but I don't know how. Yeah, I don't connect that well to the chakras because I've just been doing the Qigong for so long that it's just, this kind of overpowers everything else. So, but Dantian's a pretty unique idea. And if you stop, it's hard to, once you learn something, to unlearn it and not have that frame of reality anymore. So I think even if you're not accessing it, even though that you used to, it's still present. And I know a lot of people who are 10, 12 years removed from doing Qigong who still say they do some of the practices, at least just the framework of thinking about being rooted in Dantian or gathering their energy. So that Dantian gives a place for the energy to go to. Yeah. In the past, he talked about Dantian wasn't a great place to store energy long term. I think we can put a lot of energy in there short term to store it, but I think mostly the storage energy is in the meridian system and in the bones. So I think we can cultivate the capacity for Dantian to hold lots of energy short term, especially in our practice, and then it goes into circulation. Then we can put more in there when we need to. It's not like a savings account. I put all this money in there, it's permanently there, like a piggy bank. Like you keep putting pennies in there and it builds up. It goes into circulation for the most part. And then if we want to guide it there to do something interesting, then we can put it there. Was something he said years ago. So it'd be interesting to touch that again and see how he answers it, because that's been a while since we've talked about it in that context.
So that's like what we do, and we do light up the bones, is we're putting, so that like stores that energy in our bones long term?
It strengthens those cells to a much higher level, and the bones are constantly restructuring. They're not static, they're constantly changing. So it's not like the skeleton of your house. It's those 2x4s that are holding your house together. Those are permanent. Those aren't moving. Those aren't, shifting. But our bones are constantly based on the demand of what's going on. So also when we go into the bones, we're also going into the marrow as well. And all the stem cells are in the marrow as well. So I think there's the benefit of doing that as well. So I think the practice helps put energy into the bones, but mostly just collecting the energy and just getting it to the circulation is enough.
And then have you noticed in acupuncture, like, does the Dantian make the energy flow differently, or does it like shift the energy lines at all?
I don't know. I haven't actually treated that many Qigong students. So it would be neat to like have treated them from before starting Golden Shield and all through the different levels to see what changes with their body. But the reality is many of the Qigong students don't come in for acupuncture, so I don't really know. We still have an acupuncture point that we call Qi Hai that people relate to Dantian. And generally if that area is, hollow or empty, we kind of attribute that to like kidney weakness and stuff like that. But now with Dr. Zhang talking about, in regards to that question I asked about Dantian, makes me have a whole new framework of looking at Dantian now. So it's hard to see. Definitely people who are sick and worn out, palpating on their lower abdomen, especially below the navel, it can be very hollow. And, like you touch it, there's like nothing there. Versus touching like, it's hollow, meaning it's like that, versus a baby is like robust and springy, and you press it and it bounces back. Mm-hmm. That shows to me there's some vitality and energy there. But I don't know how much Dantian changes, within the acupuncture stuff. Yeah.
Can you see our Dantians when we're in class practicing?
Not all the time, sometimes. And sometimes in meditation too. So that's one skill I don't have total control over. It's just when it's there, I use it. When it's not there, I use other tools. And in the past, Dr. Zhang talked about, I think in one of the classes in the past, I talked about the third eye, and one of Dr. Zhang's patients didn't believe it was possible. So, he opened it for them for a couple of days. But he's always said, like, when it turns on, just let it be. But if it turns off, don't try to make it turn back on, because that can burn up a lot of energy. So if you get a glimpse, it's like, oh, whoa, that's cool. And you can see, a little bit of energy around somebody, and then it turns off. Don't spend a lot of energy trying to get back that experience again. Because upper dantian tends to burn through a lot of energy if we don't know what we're doing. So, yeah. Mark.
Yeah, I was just on the Dantian conversation, just to share a couple of thoughts on that. You mentioned it not being like a savings account, and what Stephen shared is absolutely the case that Dr. Zhang shared with us at one point. And it was kind of a revelation, because we're all taught that it is like the savings account. So it's important to realize, like, what Stephen's sharing is kind of like an advanced insight that we all went, oh, really? And that helps you then put it in the context of how people talk about it, because as you probably know, they talk about savings account as lower dantian, checking account as middle dantian, and credit account as upper dantian. And so when you're doing your daily work, the original sort of flashlights in model, when we say flashlights in, the original Chinese picture of it basically is a candle, and it shows the flame reinvigorating the base. It's like an arrow going to the base. And the reason why is the flame is awareness, and it's the product of burning Jing. So that's like a candle. And that's why the Chinese will say, like, slow down your metabolism, you slow down your wick burn like a turtle. So you want to breathe slowly, right? So this idea that instead of just consuming the Jing, the mind could go back and reinforce the Jing is basically one of the fundamental turning around ideas in Taoism, that instead of flowing out into the world like the world has done as it expressed, it's an involution, a turning inward. And so that turning inward is, again, why in the Tao Te Ching it says, for example, the sage can travel all day without leaving home. Why? At one level, that means because his mind's in his body. And so where is it in the body? It says in the Taiji classics, when there is no qi, there is pure steel. And a lot of people struggle with that one. And that's kind of what Stephen was referring to, which is when the qi goes really deep, you felt it in your practice. You don't feel it at the surface anymore. Well, it's gone into the bones. And the bones are where you make your blood. So the bones are super strong all by themselves when the chi's in there like steel, and you can't feel it out here, and it's making your blood strong. So in a sense, what Stephen and Dr. Zhang are saying is that's a deeper level of the battery. But when you walk around in your everyday life, you bring the qi to these containers, which are reservoirs in which the qi is flowing through the meridians. And so, like Dr. Zhang says, if you use your heart center all the time, he says priests that he see often have weak heart qi because they're always connecting to people through love, right? And so by putting it down here in this lower one, we're not exhausting ourselves as we go through the world, and the qi is ready to be deployed quickly as we need it. So that's our posture in the world. So anyway, that's sorry, it's a long answer, but thank you for letting me add that to it, Stephen.
No, it's wonderful. It's nice to have other people's, explanation who can explain it very elegantly. And a lot of this practice that we do, we actually take in a lot of qi quickly and store tremendous amounts of it, and then we use it really quickly, and then we repeat over and over again. So like Dantian is almost like a holding vessel temporarily, so we can store this energy and then use it, store it and use it. Versus like a lot of times when you first start learning about Qigong, they talk about lower Dantian and putting energy in there and energy in there. It's like savings account, but it's more just short-term storage. Kelly, what were you gonna?
Yeah, I have a question because I think we almost always just talk about lower dantian, and I don't know if you've ever explained, like, what's the difference between middle and higher dantian? Like, what is that function? Why don't we use those? Like, well, I feel like we only hear about lower dantian, so that's interesting.
It's the most useful one for what we're doing currently. It builds the foundation, it gets the energy down, it allows us to be centered, and like it ties all the way back into everything Mark was saying about turning the lights inwards and letting that grow. But middle dantians, Dr. Zhang has used the example as more of like an area where we can transfer the energy through the body more efficiently. So the analogy I always give is like in big cities like Houston and Dallas, when you have all these different highways that come together, you have those big mix masters. So middle dantian is a lot like a mix master where it allows the energy to be distributed everywhere very easily. But it also is an area where we use a lot of energy through emotions. So like Mark was saying, pastors love too much. So people who love too much can actually weaken their heart, the heart chi. And then upper dantian is more the high level spiritual kind of function, like turning on some of the psychic stuff, but also that can burn up a lot of energy quickly. So sometimes more energy than we have. Yeah. That's why people who ruminate and think and worry too much, it can be very exhausting. You know, our brain uses more energy than any other organ system, and it doesn't turn off at night. So it's just as active as night, you know, as it is during the day. So sometimes turning it off, getting the energy out of the head down to dantian can be useful. But yeah, we definitely use upper dantian in the pure energy levels, in the head level. Torso turns on middle dantian quite a bit. I talked about how sometimes before class I would take naps when I was going through Golden Shield, and my dantian would just turn on like a generator, and my whole body would just shake. And then when I was doing torso, same thing would happen. I'd be taking a little nap and like I could feel dantian like vibrating everything. And then when I was doing hands, it got to the point where the whole dantian was vibrating enough to where my girlfriend made me sleep on the couch all the time because she said the whole bed was vibrating so much. It's like, just go sleep on the couch. I can't sleep with you because the whole bed's vibrating. So sometimes it'll turn on. People will get glimpses of it, you know, at different levels. But I definitely felt middle dantian turn on with hands and torso. Lower dantian, I felt it a lot through the different levels. Yeah. I never felt upper dantian like vibrating and shaking the whole bed or anything. Just certain things, just kind of insights started to turn on. Yeah. Fun questions. Anybody else on the topic of dantian?
I happen to be reading for those that are interested, I happen to be reading a book which has and there's probably many of them, but it has some good illustrations about auras and chakras. And it does include dantian, and I think that the middle one higher, I think. I haven't read it thoroughly, but I've found the pictures very interesting. And I think they talk about it as the hara, and I think you mentioned one time that that's like Japanese equivalent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the hara can be dantian, generally not though. Generally it's the entire abdominal region, because even within the hara, they still have dantian, they still say in Japanese. So it's pretty tricky when you start translating this stuff. Sometimes they have a lot of differentiation words to like be more specific. Even within Chinese acupuncture, we have a lot of different types of qi. We have yuan qi, we have wei qi, we have zong qi, you know. So even the qi that attacks the needle, when you put it in, we call it da qi, like the qi attacking the needle. So there's a lot of different, you know, words, you know, and I only know a little bit, you know. So there's a lot more types of qi, you know, that people have classified and distinguished from other types. So I think the lower abdomen area too can be broken down into, you know, some people say all of it's dantian, some people say, oh, a very specific part is dantian. So it just depends from their point of reference, what are they talking about?
I think part of I'm curious about the part if you can lose your chi from the, you know, use it up.
Elaborate just a tiny bit more.
I'm not sure how Kelly said it. She also asked about, is it possible to?
Oh, if I'm correct, she said, if we stop practicing, what happens to dantian?
Yeah.
Like, does it shrink? And I think it would shrink to an extent, you know. But I think because you've trained that capacity to a little bit, it should be easier to get back to where you were because you've done some. And that's the idea behind the ceilings, is it kind of locks in that limit of what's possible into your cellular memory. So it doesn't stay completely full, but if you take 10 years off and you come back and warm it back up, then it's like it turns on really quickly and you're almost right back where you just were. Versus if you didn't seal or if you didn't train at all, then you'd be starting from scratch. You know. Yeah.
Hey, two comments on that, if I may.
Sure.
One, just to Kelly's question about lower dantian over upper and middle. I love the line Lao Tzu has. He says, basically, don't follow the mind, follow the belly. He says the mind will lead you on hallucinations. It'll waste your energy with things that aren't here and never will be. And essentially the belly is like if you've got a root of a tree. They say as long as the rootstock is still good, you can always recultivate life. So that's how you cultivate longevity, is with the mind and the belly button tissue. And so that's just the very fundamental biological reason. And I think you've heard Dr. John talk about that belly button tissue having the property of plant and animal. And then just Wendy, to your question about the dantian. So on this, because I think it's a confusing topic sometimes, but it's not. It's like if you've been a triathlete or something, you can always go back and train to run long distances pretty easily versus someone who never did it, you know? But at the same time, if I don't do Tai Chi or Qigong for a few days, I feel it. Whereas if I practice an hour every day of those things, my energy builds each day. And as long as I'm getting rest and eating and not partying too much or stressing, I can feel it build. And if those other things are going on, I may not have the energy to train because it takes energy to train. And so it turns out it's a very highly calibrated machine, just like it is any athlete, like training to be a gymnast or a world-class racer. You know, the further you go, the more the fine-tuned calibration if you really want to build versus coast. And unfortunately, that becomes, I think, your real barrier to progress. It's almost managing your lifestyle so that you can put into the Jing what you need to progress.
Wonderful. Any other comments, questions? Doesn't have to be about dantian. Any specific questions about practice?
I have just one. It's probably an easy one, Stephen. Only because I just want to get it. I don't want to put any more attention on it. When you're doing the fireball,
Yes.
does it have to be a particular color?
No, we want it to be hot, and generally we associate with red, orange with hot. So
Yeah.
like a fireball or a cloud of fire, a ball of fire.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because what is fire? Fire is movement. You know, what is temperature? You know, temperature is the quantitative measurement of movement. So if something gets hot, you know, and fire would be an extreme example of something hot. So we're creating a lot of the activity. So we're bringing the youngness into the practice, you know, so it's bringing the energy up to a higher, to a different energy state that's more active. So that just helps support the practice.
Yeah. So I guess I had some attention on it because I believe specifically you refer to the morning suns as a bright white and not like a sunset red or orange or.
Yeah. So yeah, in the morning sun, we definitely want it to be bright white. The fireball can be red, orange.
Okay.
Red, orange, yellow, just hot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Harold? Oh, you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, no worries. I just wasn't, so something I've been thinking about is like, how do I know if I'm like progressing in my practice? Is there like a self-check or like a test of knowing that I'm building energy or that I'm benefiting from the practice? I mean, there are times I'm just out there, I'm like, okay, I'm like hitting the tree. Great, okay, done. And then just, you know, I'm finding myself being a little bit on autopilot. And yeah, and the other thing is I notice it's windy, so I don't notice the leaves on the branches moving, I'm like, well, that I don't have any point of reference, so surely, I mean, yeah. So I go into this thought pattern of like, okay, I'm just doing it and getting it over with, but I don't, know if I'm. How do I know I'm improving? And
Ask the tree.
Good. Those are all good points. So one suggestion I would do is try a different tree. So sometimes if the tree's too big, it can feel like I'm never going to win and I can't see my progress. Versus if you are on a smaller tree, then you can feel like, oh, I can win. I'm not bigger than it, but I feel like, oh, this isn't so overwhelming, and I feel like I can shake it a little bit. The other part is, you mentioned it, like getting into autopilot mode. So it's like with any level of practice, we always want to like see if we can do a little bit better. We always want to do the best that we can on that day, and gradually increase the intensity a little bit. So we kind of have to be on ourselves about like, how can I get the most out of this practice? And then like test the limits a little bit. So it takes a little bit of self-discipline. Sometimes when, especially when there's no class, usually being in class, I can observe and go, okay, we can step it up a little bit. And sometimes in class, people like to do better, when the teacher's present. So do you remember the special breathing?
Yeah.
So especially do that once you've warmed up, and
Right.
then really try to give it a good go. And
yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel that whenever I'm drawing up the energy, I feel a little bit more like, increased attention because I'm going a little harder. But like during warm-ups, yeah. And I actually migrated to another tree today. I was like, maybe I should try this tree. So yeah, I'll take that into consideration, like shifting around and yeah.
But as you start going harder, some people notice as they start going harder and the whole torso starts to fill up with more chi, that the harder they go, they just kind of bounce off. And it's like, it's hard to even challenge themselves. So if that's happening, then that makes sense about kind of hitting a plateau and like you're not growing and it's time to switch. But I don't think we're there just yet.
Yeah, I'm still getting bruises and scratches, so.
And then did you add in the chest? So 1, 2, 3, and then the sides?
Yeah, and then the 2 on the sides.
Yeah. And what you can also notice or listen for is, as you start doing this, the ability to really fill up, the sound should start to change a little bit. So that's also something you can look and monitor, like, oh, that sounds different than it did last week. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, Harold, can I add another one to that one? And Stephen, you can tell me to be quiet anytime.
Go for it.
Okay, I was just going to say on this one, I love all the practical advice Stephen was offering. And I would add that from an attitudinal perspective of walking the path, that you trust the teacher and you trust the path. So you say, I know this path works because I've seen it work every time so far, and I trust Dr. John. And so if he says to do this, I'm going to do it because I know, of course, I'm benefiting from it. And I've got years of practice and near fucking miracles that I can witness in myself and other people, that I shouldn't need to ask that kind of question. I need to be a much more mature spiritual seeker, basically. If this was more traditionally taught as a spiritual path, that's the kind of answer that you would get. But fundamentally, it's the case. And I've seen people in Stevens in my class drop because they get to pure energy and they say, well, I just can't really tell if I'm improving anymore because I used to have a tail to break, a tree to shake, and now I'm just using my mind and I'm trying to do near impossible tasks. And so I just don't feel it, And so there's a heavy winnowing that comes at that level because of it. And to me, that's just foolish because back to, trust in the teacher. I'm like, if Dr. John said we're going to push bamboo shoots under our fingernails for the next 90 days, I'd be like, when do we start? Because I know it's going to do something fucking amazing, right? And so if you get over that, and now on this level, you'll have an easier time on pure energy.
Yeah, cool. That's helpful. It's like we're just in a weird time situation, and Yeah, lots of questioning, contemplation around a lot of things for me, just in general. So,
And please, no disrespect intended by my answer, because I know I'm sort of like in your face with it. I'm saying it of myself and everyone else. These are universal things that happen on the path that aren't personal. To your point, this is a hard time, so more comes up, but no judgment. That's all I'm saying.
oh yeah, no, none taken. Yeah, I got you.
But a lot of times that we respond more to the energy that's coming at us. Like in two-person practice, like, oh, if someone's not hitting you very hard, then you don't send out much energy. But on the solo, on one-person practice, you don't have that two-person dynamic, so it's up to you to create a little bit more challenge for you to respond to.
Right.
Sometimes once you warm up, that's where that extra breathing and going harder, then you go, whoa, I can go much harder. And then once you know that you can go harder, then you start that to become your new normal. So it's just that little bit of self-push to always kind of challenge yourself the most without breaking things down. So
Yeah.
we want to be in that perfect balance where we're integrated and full and we're building and we're challenging ourselves. Because if it's too low, then it gets boring and our mind's wandering and we're just on autopilot. And you go too hard, then you kind of break down and you start accessing the negative neurochemicals in the body and stuff.
Yeah, I'm feeling the need for a switch to a smaller tree, because there's a part of me that in my mind I keep thinking that I'm gonna hurt myself if I go a little too hard. Like, I don't know, it's just this weird fear that I have of like slipping a disc or like some other, and that's just my past trauma and history. So not with the tree, but
Right.
like that. Yeah.
But you're also in the medical field, so it's like you hear all these horror stories of what people do to themselves. So it's like, you're kind of working against all that stuff that you've come across over all these years.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think going to a smaller tree would be very useful because that is already in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Jung always encourages us to win, like small wins, small successes over and over again, cultivate, and it really changes everything. Even when we were talking one time, we were talking about ping pong, and he's like, even if you're playing someone who's much, much better than you, and they're just beating you, but you get one good hit in, that like they thought, oh, you can't get it, and you get it, you should celebrate that, even though they hit it back and score, big deal. But the fact that you did something, that little success, really anchor it in, let it grow, because success builds success. So find a little smaller tree and then kind of grow from there. And you might notice, ooh, one practice or two practices on a smaller tree, all of a sudden it's like, oh, the energy just ignites and grows like a little jump start. So,
nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cool. Any other comments? Okay, we'll do a meditation. Monday we did, go ahead.
Stephen, just one quick one. So one of my students wanted to start a fund for people in the Taiji or Qigong community that need help bridging cash or food needs while this coronavirus is on. And so I just wanted to announce that, and in case anyone knows someone like that, because basically my friend's view is, and I agree, is that Christians, they take good care of each other in community, and that's historically was the backbone of community support in this country. But if you're a Buddhist or a Taoist, you will die alone in your cave. And so we aim to change that.
Nice. Send me a link and I'll send it out.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Keeps getting knocked off. Okay, so Monday we did the large orbit, one where we were standing and we went through the legs, and someone requested that we do the other large orbit where we go through the arms. So we'll get centered, we'll take in 3 morning suns, we'll gather our energy from the day, just because I like to stack certain meditations together, just so we have some energy to work with through the meridians. And it just takes a moment just to kind of get into the body, get mind settled. So we'll do those things that we're used to. And then from there, we'll take the energy in Dantian. And this time we're going to go through the torso and through the arms, but we're not going to go through the head. So we're going to go from Dantian like we've done before and go down to the perineum and then it's going to go up the tailbone, the backside of the spine. It's going to stop opposite, right between the shoulder blades. And then it's going to go down the outside of the arms to the middle finger. And then it's going to go inside to here and then to Dantian. So it's going to be exhale, down and up the spine, splitting and going down both arms to the middle finger. That's all on the exhale. Inhale from the tip of the middle finger to the center of the chest, and then down. They'll merge into one and then go back to Dantian. So that's an inhale. So inhale into Dantian, exhale down, split, inhale, down. Versus Monday, we had 2 full breaths. Any questions on that before we do it? Other question with that. Historically, I usually do 3 orbits guided and then allow everyone to do 6 at their own pace. Would you guys rather me guide all 9, or do you like being able to go at your own pace for those last few? Okay, show of hands.
Being guided. I'm sorry.
Who wants me to do all 9? Okay, who wants me to do 3 and then you do it at your own pace? Shit. Okay, it's hard to tell, split.
I've just noticed that you have a longer inhale and exhale than I do. And so when you're doing guided, I'm like, I'm not supposed to breathe. And then I'm like sitting here going, I'm done inhaling.
Yeah, I'll do the 3. I like doing it that way because I feel like when I'm leading it, I'm going too fast.
Yes. I'm with you, Kelly, on that.
Okay. Okay, get comfortable. So this one you can do sitting, laying, standing. So yeah, go on and close your eyes. So just go to rest the tip of your tongue to where it touches the roof of your mouth, just behind your front upper teeth. And let's just turn those flashlights inwards. So bring your awareness inside. You can gather all the pieces of your mind that spread out in so many different directions and just shine that light inwards. We can kind of shift and align our posture so we can feel as if there's a string attached to the top of our head. And allow it to lift you upwards ever so slightly. Creating a little bit of space between each vertebra. Making space inside your torso. And with the body lifted and suspended, let's relax and let go of any tension in the body. And just with your next breath, follow it all the way down into lower dantian. And let's just spend a little bit of time in lower dantian, kind of anchoring the energy, bring ourselves into the moment. Just tune everything else out. Past and future is not important. Just enjoy being in the moment. Taking this time to nourish your chi, nourish your body. Cultivate your mind. Now let's add to this energy in lower dantian by taking in 3 morning suns. So just visualize a beautiful, bright, white morning sun, about 10 a.m. in the sky. Use your mind and pull the sun to you. Feel the warmth all over your body, especially at the top of the head. The mind tells the chi to open the pathway point at the top of the head. And on your next inhale, allow the sun to melt into a liquid light and allow it to melt and pour straight down the central channel all the way down into the lower dantian as it reforms as a morning sun. And we create a second morning sun, bigger and brighter than the first. Pull the sun to you. Make it as real as possible. Inhale, let it melt and pour straight down into the lower dantian. Then one last time, a third morning sun. Just like before, see it, feel it, draw it to you. Feel the warmth all over your body. Inhale, allow the sun to melt into a liquid light and pour straight down the lower dantian. Close the pathway point. So now we have a little bit of energy in lower dantian to work with. So inhale into lower dantian, activate it, get it full. Exhale, send it to the navel and allow it to go down to the perineum, to the tailbone, sacrum, mingmen, mid back, and then upper back, just between the shoulder blades. Allow it to split and go down the outside of both of your arms to the elbows and forearms, to the middle finger. And then inhale, draw it in from the tip of the middle finger over the palm, forearm, upper arm, across the chest, and allow it to merge into one. And allow it to continue to go down, all the way down to lower dantian. Take a breath here if you need to. Inhale, exhale, send the energy down to the way yin, to the perineum, tailbone, sacrum, mingmen, mid back, upper back, and allow it to split into two, going down the outside of both arms, to the elbows and forearms, back of the hand, middle finger. Inhale, draw from the tip of the middle finger over the palm, forearm, upper arm, across the chest, merging into one as it continues to go down the front midline to dantian. We could take another natural breath here if you like. Inhale fully. Exhale, send it down to the way in. Tailbone, sacrum. Use your mind, guide the chi along this pathway. Low back, mid back, upper back, and allow it to split. Down the outside of both arms, to the elbows and forearms, back of the hand, middle finger. Inhale, draw it across the palm, forearm, upper arm, across the chest, merging into one as it continues to flow down into Dantian. And just take a natural breath here if you need to, and then do 6 more at your own pace. So moving the light with your mind along this orbit, guiding the chi with your intention. You don't have to take that extra breath at Dantian. You can just continue straight down to the next orbit. After you've completed 6 at your own pace, you can just keep your awareness on lower Dantian as everyone else finishes. But you can open your eyes so I know that you're done. So even though your eyes are open, you can still stay focused on lower Dantian. So after you finished all your orbits, bring your awareness back into lower Dantian. Slowly open your eyes, but still stay focused on lower dantian. And if you get lost in the count, just pick a number and then kind of move forward. Okay. Any comments about this experience, this meditation? Was it easier than going through the legs?
I had a hard time. Like I could only follow my left side, but my right side, like I would get stuck. Like when I would try to yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's extremely common.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the idea is to keep practicing and then seeing what shifts, you know. When we do the small orbit, a lot of times people will see the light and then it kind of disappears, like kind of like a train going into a tunnel, and then it pops out over here. And it's like there's a segment right here where it's just like I lose it. Where'd it go? And then it pops out over here. Over time, you'll be able to make that continuous loop all the way around with the chi. And so some people will say, oh yeah, I can see it on one side, but not the other. Or it feels like, oh, it's going really fast on this side, it's going really slow on this side. You know, lots of fun experiences people have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, Kelly. Oh, okay. Well, I have that experience when I get to like the tailbone
Mm-hmm.
on up, is it kind of goes through that tunnel all the way up till where it splits off in the back.
Okay.
And I'm just curious if there's any insights into that or anything that would be worth paying attention to with that.
I would just observe it and just keep training and keep doing meditation and see what shifts over time.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice it's only on the spine, then maybe you just might need to do the small orbit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely felt like it was easier for me to do the main circuit and harder to see it go down my arms.
Okay.
And up like that seemed a little spotty, but then, and that's probably just because we do this more.
Right.
But like at the end, like I felt kind of definitely like the energy was up here, like moving around. It was interesting.
Cool. Yeah. I don't do these meditations enough, in class. They're very useful. I'm glad we have the opportunity to kind of go over this in detail and spend some time doing this, but they're useful. They're fun. And it prepares you for hands and legs because we do a lot of these. in hands and legs. So it's nice to have the introduction in Golden Shield, but it doesn't mean that that's the only time you need to do them.
I felt like I was getting a breath from the first exhale. It was like, does that make sense? It was like a long exhale all the way through to the other side of the arms. I felt like, was there supposed to be another breath in there? I just keep running out of breath.
Then you can move a little faster.
Yeah.
Because it's a long distance.
It felt longer than the legs.
Yeah, I think the leg one is pretty equal. You know, it's like you had the bottom leg segment, the upper leg segment, and then the upper torso segment, and yeah. This one is kind of much like because we're starting from the navel, going down from the navel to the perineum, then to the arms, and then so the front's a little bit shorter. But that kind of ties into the idea that Dr. Zhang likes in general is for us to exhale longer than we inhale.
Yeah, I thought it might have something to do with that.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Any other comments on this one? Mark, any insight onto these orbits from your experience over these years?
Wow. Well, you know, it's interesting. I heard Bruce Francis talking about this recently, but he was saying that historically, like Dr. Zhang described once, I think an uncle or something that went and every morning, like at midnight, you know, would meet some Taoist master and like practice like till 3 a.m. or something. And he would do a specific meridian like in his shin, and it never repeated. It was a new little meridian every night for like 3 years. Well, Kumar was saying that's how they traditionally did these things. And then they realized that you could get 80% of the value just by running the main yin and yang meridians like you're doing with this exercise. So to your point, in the advanced levels, we get more specific exercises about what you do with the arms and the legs. But at least one Taoist would say you get 80% by doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have some interesting ideas, and I don't want to share them yet because I want to confirm them with Dr. Zhang about what I think these orbits are doing. So I studied some Japanese acupuncture with this brilliant woman, Kiko, in Boston, and she's like a modern day scholar. Like she understands classical Chinese, even Japanese, and also Japan never had a cultural revolution. So when they brought acupuncture over to Japan, it was the early Han Dynasty, which was like a peak of Chinese medicine, and they never had a cultural revolution. So they base all their medicine off of these few books. And she goes in there and translates them with ancient, you know, Chinese. Most people who are translating are using like modern dictionaries and stuff, and they're missing a lot of information because those words have so much meaning. So she would spend like a year translating just one word in some of these texts, and she would read like all these different Taoist books and stuff just to get a framework for what this one word meant in that time era. And she's coming out with these really profound explanations of what's going on with some of these meridians. And I want to talk to Dr. Zhang about that because I think there's a piece to that and how it ties in with at least a small orbit. Because all the meridians tie into it, and the meridians go in and out. So as as we're doing this, it seems like chi from the different meridians can come in and join. It's like a Congo line. You know, first starts off with a couple of people, and then as you do it more, it's like more people join in. So in some ways, it can be drawing a little bit of energy from the different meridians, but at the same time, it can be sending nutrients to those meridians as well as we're doing it. So it can be very balancing. We always usually say this is really balancing and harmonizing. So I think when those meridians are full, then it will overflow into all the other little meridians. So I'm going to kind of ask him about that so don't take me for my word for that. That's just an idea coming from her stuff, but it feels that way. That when we're doing this, part of the reason it's balancing is because it's say, you know, when they have the champagne glass tower and they pour the first one, once that one's full, it fills up the next one. So as we get more full, it will start to overflow in all the other meridians that are kind of empty. And this meditation kind of helped facilitate that, I think. but
Nice.
I've never really asked why we do this meditation other than we know it's good for circulation.
That's awesome. And, you know, actually, I did want to comment for a second on what Ed was saying about the breath, because the timing of the breath, I think it's helpful to really distinguish in our minds that the chi is actually not the breath, meaning you think right now, for example, I'm breathing in, and then you can do your track. And like, for example, when the energy comes home to the lower dantian, you can feel how it feels like you've arrived home. I'm sure you guys felt that. And in fact, have a feeling of, homecoming when you go there, because it helps train the mind that that's home base. But if you feel that, you'll also realize that you can hang almost without even breathing, like you're still inhaling. So you're still on the in-breath. What you're doing is just going, feeling like an absorption, right? You're feeling energy just condensing in there. And then as you start the out-breath, you're taking the energy out and around. And again, you just have the idea that you're releasing the air, not that you have to time a breath evenly from here to there. It's almost like you hang up and even feel like you stopped breathing sometimes, but you do continue. It's an exhalation the whole way. But because your tissues are deeply oxygenated, because you're a Qigong practitioner, you don't need this kind of breath like it's, so you've got a deeper breath going on. And then in that sense, the chi is like a breath. It's like a current that's replenishing the cells. You know, it's picking up waste and delivering nutrients. And so the chi is that breath, but it's not quite the same as the breath that comes in up here. And so you don't have to really sync them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And this carries over from Monday as well. Like if you feel like you want to do this meditation and go extremely slow and not coordinate your breath at all, you can just use your mind and breathe normal and just go a little bit slower. So you can kind of track and really define where is this pathway that I'm moving it along, and going a little slower can kind of open it up a little bit. And then later you can tie in the breath if you want to do that as well.
Yeah, another possibility occurred to me, which was that it is also could be related to a pattern in my life where I've ever since I started learning how to swim in Australia, I've always never quite got that timing right with the breath. And I just, so, you know, that's a personal thing, but I just, there was that came up as well, because I found in practices that it brings up sometimes how you are in life as well, which is useful if you can observe that, I find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any specific training questions, practice questions? Cool. Okay.
Just one, Stephen, quick
Yeah.
one. So again, this is one that we do all the time. The breathing in, you know, the morning sun breathing in comes into the lower dantian. What do you do with the out breath?
Oh, I breathe it in and then I exhale and then bring my mind back up to create the next one.
So there's no doing something with the chi and the lower dantian or anything like that. It
No,
comes out as it came in.
Yeah, so just inhale, bring it here, and then if you want to exhale and just keep, you know, your awareness here for a couple of breaths, if you want to, you don't have to go inhale, exhale, and then inhale. Like you can pause it, you know. Surprisingly, Dr. Zhang, when he teaches us, he goes really fast, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, so you can just be here for a breath or two, and then draw another one to you, see it, feel it, and then inhale. I think the main reason most of us instructors spend a lot of time going slow with that part of the meditation is because that's usually our starting point in meditation. And it takes a moment to kind of get into the groove and like let some of the shit just, you know, fade away to get into into the zone. So a lot of instructors will be very specific and take our time with the morning sun, but it's not necessary. You know, if you feel like you can just get into that state, and then inhale and draw it in real quickly, that's fine. One of my teachers used to have us get really deep into dantian and get really kind of calm and centered, and then make us come out of it really quickly, and then go back in, and go back out, and go back in, and go back out, and just teach us to go in and out really quickly, to where once you learn to do that, you can actually be with your eyes open and still keep a lot of your focus here very easily. And then if you have time, then you can close your eyes and boom, go right in there really quickly and really profoundly, and then come out really easily. So there's a little bit of adaptability and flexibility with that. But yeah, for the exhale, there's nothing specific.
I had a question around, I tried to do just one person practice with the brick last one day, and I was using my shoulders, and I noticed like my whole collarbone and like on my right shoulder and my whole like first rib just got like super flared up when I was doing it. And so you think I should stop doing the one person?
Well, I mean, you probably wanted to challenge yourself, and because you've been doing two-person for a while now, it's like the way you used to hit one person was enough, so you're probably going with a lot more force just to get you to that level of stimulation that you've been used to or been craving. So I wouldn't try to hit yourself that hard.
Got it.
So if you're going to do it, just like know it's not going to be the same, and you're not going to satisfy that craving for that high vibration impact, and just train moderately.
Cool.
Yeah.
You could also try I switch hands when I do on myself, like do some right, some left, just because my right arm gets tired.
Yeah, I was doing right and left, but I think if I did all left, that would probably be better.
Yeah, because you wouldn't try to go as hard with the dominant hand, and you just, yeah. But I know this feeling is like, man, I want more, I'm craving more, and you try to go as hard as you can, but it's going to throw stuff out a little bit. So just know you're not going to get the same kind of high intensity training as two-person on one person. So just be okay with that, and just enjoy the practice and find little subtle things to keep refining with the practice. Because there's cultivation in that too, of like, okay, being a little bit more focused, being a little bit more detail oriented. There's still things we can learn from that.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess that's it. If no other questions, going once, going twice. Ed,
Where do you park the recorded Zoom videos?
where do I post them?
Yeah, or park them. Yeah, whatever.
I put them on a private YouTube, unlisted. I'm open to other suggestions. I think I saw that Matt, he's been doing it on his Google Drive, but it's like Google and YouTube is still the same. So
I just wondered, is it possible to access them?
Oh yeah, have you not been getting them?
Well, I just don't know where they are.
Oh, you probably have to keep track of the emails with the actual list. Like I think after every class, I send an email with the link. I don't think you can go directly without a link.
Oh, so just get the email that follows.
Yeah. And what I can do with the next email is I can copy all the links of all the ones we've had so far. So you'll have all of them that we've done up to this point, all in one email.
Okay.
But yeah, once we get out of this, they're gone.
Sure.
They won't be available.
And for the record, I haven't deleted your email, so I'll have them.
Okay, cool. But I'll make it easy for everyone. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to review that one meditation. Then, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? And if anyone has any better suggestion on where to park those videos, I'd be open to that too. I think Venmo to do with the password is like a couple $100 a year or something. But that might be an option as well to do it password protected.
Can I say something really quick? This is Eric.
Oh, hey. Yes.
Hey, there are programs where you can download YouTube videos. I don't know if people are aware of that, and I don't know if Stephen is okay with that. But when you can download them to your computer and just save them if that's what you want.
I would prefer not to, because Dr. Young doesn't want us doing that, but I am aware of that, and that's what I mean, it's pretty much hard to park a video anywhere and not have it be downloadable.
Okay.
So much software this day and age. So yeah. But we want to do a little bit of effort to allow it to be like not listed and people can like, ooh, Google Golden Shield and find all these videos. So they're unlisted.
Okay.
You have to have the link to find it.
Well, but then if you put it on Google Drive and then you can only share it with the people who are in the class, so then
Yeah.
it would be restricted to that, right?
Yes, but there's, I mean, we've been doing this for the advanced light class. I've been doing this for my pure energy class, and it's like video files are huge. So it adds up really quickly. So I might look into Venmo. What's not Venmo, but the other one. But anyways, we don't need to talk about that stuff. Okay, I'll see you guys Monday. Send me an email with any questions. Also, I sent out an email about asking people who want to do two-person practice. If you're open to doing two-person practice, I'll compile a list with all your contact info and then share it with you guys so you guys can get some two-person practice in. For those who want to do it. Perfect. Okay, see you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.